Alright, so we're serging our panels together, or if you were going to say it correctly, we're sewing our widths together to make a panel. And this drape requires 3 widths to make 1 panel. At the end of the day, we'll have 2 panels, each with 3 widths, one for a left window and one for a right. How did we do on the very end there, Susie? Is it even? Everything's nice and even, nice and straight. You want to let's show about how the cut corners go together. And then this is going to be really easy because you can see the face to face. So we have a cut corner and one that's not. Then there'll be a cut corner on the other side. And now we'll sew our next width to that cut corner. And when I get all that done, I'll meet you back on the cutting table. Hello everybody, welcome back, welcome to my channel, Sewing Side Hustle. So what we're doing now, as I showed earlier, we had to sew our buckram to the top of the drape. We're face down, so that means our cut corner should be over here, if we needed to know that, but we're really far along now. So anyway, that's where the buckram sews on. We turn it once, we turn it twice. Tuck all that in. Have a nice 4-inch header. Iron a little bit. Get hot. Hello everybody, we're finishing up our privacy drape made out of printed blackout lining, and I wanted to go over a few things with you. The main thing I want to cover here is fullness, and this particular drape is 3 times the fullness. And how we arrive at 3 times the fullness, we started out with 3 times as much fabric as we needed to make the width, the overall width of the finished drape. To get there, we have to know the overall finished width of the drape. We have to divide that number by 3, which is the width of each space. And that'll tell us how many spaces we need. And then we will take that number and subtract that from the overall width of the 3 panels sewn together, the overall width, before it's pleated. And what's left, the leftover number, whatever that may be, ends up being in the pleat. The pleat. Alright. Hopefully that's understandable. Now the purpose of having 3 times the fullness, like this drape, is so we have plenty of fabric left over to make a nice, big, beautiful pleat. And as you can see, at 3 times the fullness for a 58-inch drape, we'll end up with enough fabric to have a 6-inch pleat. And what that means is 6-inch pleat is this width right here. And then when we pin that together, like so, make sure I'm back in the right spot or somebody will be mad at me. And that's our pleat. We can check, make sure I got it right by putting those pins together, making sure those pleats are the same. Okay, now the next thing I'm not going to get into too deep is the seam where these 3 panels or these 3 widths are sewed together to make this panel. We have a seam right here. You wouldn't want this seam to be in the center of a pleat, or the center of a space I should say, or anywhere in the pleat. Although your pleats, although your spaces have to remain the same to get your 60 or your 58 inches in this particular case, you have a little bit of wiggle room in your pleats. And what that means is you can make your pleats smaller or bigger up to 3/8 of an inch. Nothing more than that, because it will show. But when you divide 3/8 of an inch in half, that's not very much. And over one width of a panel, one width of this drape, you have 1, 2, 3, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pleats that you can adjust to move this seam whichever way it needs to go to get up here to the edge of this pleat. Alright, I think I got all that right. Alright, so to recap, this drape's 3 times the fullness. You can make them a flat panel, which would be 1 times the fullness, and there's applications for that. You can make 2 times the fullness if you're limited in fabric or for whatever reason. And then most people here around Albuquerque like 3 times the fullness because it just makes a really nice, beautiful, that's just the normal way that they're normally made. 3 times the fullness. So you can go more, you can go less. You're not stuck to that. It's not a rule, but it is kind of a rule of thumb. 3 times the fullness for a nice, beautiful, sensible drape. Alright, one last thing about the header. I'm going to talk about pin set real quick. And as you've already seen in the last series on the inverted pleats, we put pins in. The pins would go here once this is all sewn up. The pin set would depend on the type of rod. If the rod's going to be covered, you don't want to see it. Or if it's a really super long drape and it was going to go from the floor all the way to the ceiling, you might want to have a 6-inch. You might want to use the 6-inch buckram here and have this 6 inches wide instead of 4 inches. That would be the purpose of that. If for like a ceiling mount, and you want this drape to go all the way from the ceiling all the way to the floor, and it was over 150 inches long, you probably want to use a 6-inch buckram. Let's see, what else I want to talk about. Once we get done, this is basically the way it will look when it's hung. These will stand out, each one, and of course be nice and straight, hanging on the rod. Alright, so these drapes are about done. I'm going to come back one more time with this order and pinch the pleats and do the pin set. And then after this one is done, the next video I found some Travis rods. I've got a one-way pull and a pair. So I want to get those out and explain how they work, explain about what is meant by the overlap, what is meant by the return. I want to talk about projection, how far away from the wall the drape is. So that's coming up on the next video after we get this video completed and uploaded. Stay tuned. See ya.